You're listening to the Belly Dance Geek Clubhouse at bellydancegeek.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Nadira Jamal, and welcome to episode 24 of the Belly Dance Geek Clubhouse. Episode 24 means that we've been at this for 2 years. This episode is being sponsored by Blue Moonstone Designs, who makes tassel belts, tie-dyed silk veils, cover-ups, and more. You can check them out at bluemoonstone.etsy.com. And if you've never been to Etsy before, it's spelled E-T-S-Y. So the Clubhouse is a place where dancers can get together and geek out on all of those things that are hard to get in classes and on DVDs. It's really easy to get help with the what. So if you want to learn some moves or a choreography, there are tons of resources out there for you. But if you want to dig into the why and the how, so things like musicality, professionalism, composition, stagecraft, that's a little bit trickier to find. So every month I interview a different guest expert on a nice geeky topic, and we always have time for questions and answers so you can geek out too. So if you think that knowledge and creativity go together like chocolate and peanut butter, you are in the right place. My guest today is Julie Eason. Julie's the founder of the Belly Dance Business Academy, where she helps dancers build more fulfilling and profitable businesses. A belly dancer herself since the mid-'80s, she's been in the professional dance world as a performer, teacher, artistic director, producer, and costume designer for over 25 years. Now a full-time marketing consultant, she's on a one-woman mission to stamp out the words starving artist forever. In her upcoming book, Crowdfunding for the Performing Arts, she helps dancers, as well as musicians, actors, and performing companies, learn how to create successful crowdfunding campaigns on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and other platforms. You can check her out at bellydancebusinessacademy.com. And Julie today is going to talk about the topic of her book, which is using crowdfunding to fund a big performing arts project. So thanks so much for coming, Julie.
Oh, you're so welcome, and congratulations on 2 years. I'm so psyched I get to be the anniversary interview.
Yay!
That's so awesome.
Yeah. Well, and also welcome back. If you folks don't know, Julie did a great session with us several months ago, maybe a little over a year, on the professional spectrum, so all the different ways that we can interpret being a professional dancer. So you can check that one out as well. So, Julie, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in belly dance?
Sure. I always like to tell people that I was something of a ballet refugee. I don't know if I created that term, but it feels like I did. I was a dancer from when I was, 3 years old. I went to ballet class and jazz and tap, and I did musical theater, and I did all the cool things you do when you're a kid. And then, like a lot of people, I matured, and my body matured, and it changed, and all of a sudden I was not so desirable to dance companies and to, places where just maybe a year ago or a few months ago I was going to auditions and I was doing performances and everything was cool. All of a sudden it was like, oh, you don't fit. This is the 1970s, so you didn't fit the mold. You were out, right? So. And then I went to high school, and we had no dance there, and I went to college, and it was just so hard, because what do you do when you've lived and breathed dance your whole life, and then all of a sudden they say you can't do it anymore? And I was like, devastated. Like, what do you mean I can't dance anymore? There just wasn't a whole lot of adult dance out there, at least not that you knew about. Then some of you know I'm a member of the Society for Creative Anachronism, the SCA. We do medieval reenacting and things, and I've been a member of that forever, like since the 80s. And I remember seeing at one of these events a belly dancer, and I was like, wait, she's doing stuff that I can do. I had surgery on my feet to try and be able to do ballet. I had some weird bone structure issues, but the surgery didn't take, so I couldn't go on releve. I couldn't go up on my toes, or on the balls of my feet. I couldn't go up there at all. But this dancer was not doing that. She was flat-footed, and I was like, oh, my God, I can totally do that. So I found a teacher. Karen Barbie was actually my first teacher in San Antonio, and it was just, I fell in love with it. It was so much fun, and it was something that an adult could do. I was a young adult then. I was, in my early 20s, actually my teens still, but I was just so excited that this was something that I could do, for the rest of my life. And so I just got hooked, and I had a theater background, so I sort of fell into all of the production side of things, the artistic director, choreographer, doing costume design, because I wanted to put on these amazing shows. So if I was going to do it, I had to be the one doing all the work behind the scenes. So I ended up doing all of that, and the rest is sort of history. I've been in a lot of different states, and I've taught, and I've done. When I was in college, I made my living doing bellygrams and performing at shows. So I've done a lot of things, and now I teach belly dancers how to market themselves and build better businesses.
Well, why don't you tell us about your background in marketing as well?
All right. So what in my day job, I am a writer. I'm a copywriter, which means that I write sales materials. I write websites and brochures and junk mail, all that junk mail that you get in the mail. Somebody actually gets paid really well to write those things. So I was a copywriter, and my clients would pay me to go to all of these conferences. There are conferences going on every weekend of all over the country and all over the world, really, about how to market yourself, because every business needs to learn this stuff, right? So I would go to these things because my clients wanted me to know how to write better and how to get better results for them. And I would listen to these speakers talking about, email marketing and websites and pay-per-click marketing and just all of this stuff, press releases and all these cool things. And I just geek out on marketing the way you guys geek out on belly dance. I love it to death. I just think it's fantastic that anyone these days can get their message out into the world and really have a successful business just because they know these cool technologies. So I decided that, God, I really wish I had known this when I was teaching full-time and performing full-time. Back then we only had, you could stick a flyer on a lamppost. That was pretty much it. So I was driving in the car one day, and I thought, you know what, belly dancers need to know this stuff, so I'm going to come up with a way to reach them with as much of my marketing knowledge as I can share. I keep up with it because I have to for my day job. So things are always changing, and I do my best to impart as much encouragement as I can to these dancers. A lot of, you know firsthand, Nadira, it really, this stuff works when you apply it. So I love to share it with performing artists in general, but belly dancers especially, because that's what I was. It's kind of like my way of giving back to dancers.
Mm-hmm. And, I know you mentioned in your bio about stamping out starving artists, but, as somebody who never thought that dancing could be anything more than a paying hobby, I can speak to the power of good marketing and solid business planning, and I got so much of this from Julie. The reason you folks are listening to this right now is because she pushed me in good ways
I'm a great
and productive
pusher.
ways and fun ways. But
come on, you can do it.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, our topic for today is crowdfunding. A lot of people don't know what that is. Can you tell us a little bit about what it means?
Sure. Even if you don't know the term crowdfunding, you might have heard the terms Kickstarter or Indiegogo or some of the crowdfunding platforms. So really what it is people with projects that they want to do or businesses they want to start or some kind of goal they want to reach, but they don't have the money to make it happen. They can use technology, and it's website technology and social media, basically, are the two biggest components of it, to reach out to their network and to their network's networks and even to total strangers and raise funds for whatever their project is. A lot of people will say, I could never do that because it's basically panhandling on the internet. I could never beg for money like that. But the fact is that people on the funder side, on the performer side, so you guys, you might feel like you're begging when you're doing it. That's the biggest objection to crowdfunding. But you have to reframe it in your head. What you're doing is you're creating an opportunity for other people to be part of a really cool project is what you're really doing. And you're saying, I need funds to make this happen or it's not going to happen. And if you want to see it happen, then, you should fund this. And on the other side of the equation, the backers, they get to feel part of something really cool. They get to feel like, I couldn't contribute a lot of money. Maybe I didn't even have the money to buy a ticket to your show, but I can give you $5 to make the show happen. Or I can give you $20. Or sometimes it's like, I feel so passionate about this project. I really want it to happen. I don't even know you, but I'm going to give you $100. And it really does.
I've done that.
I have done it too, because it's like, oh my God, this is so cool. And when I first started learning about it, it was in like the software industry and people who had inventions and actual physical things that were like, oh yeah, this physical thing really needs to be real. And they do it for medical research. They do crowdfunding for all kinds of things, video games, movies, even. If you want to see, your favorite movie. Your favorite movie, if you want to see it happen, and you can donate $20 to make it happen, that's really cool, right? You feel like you're part of this bigger thing, and it taps into a human need that we all feel. We all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. So both sides of the equation get something out of it, and that's why it works. And there's tricks to make it work, because certainly not every project gets funded. A lot of them, fall flat on their face. A lot of them never raise a dime. But the reason that I wanted to talk to you guys about this, and the very reason that I'm writing the book, is because I saw so many belly dancers just killing it with crowdfunding, like making their goals in 24 hours instead of 30 days, like insanely successful projects. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, I had consulted with them. I had helped them, craft their campaign before they launched it and make sure that they had things in order and that it looked really good. And I did my best to be a really good marketer for them and help them get everything just right. But I wasn't sure. I was like, belly dance, I don't know, man. We'll see what happens. But they killed it. They tapped into a really amazing project, and they tapped into an amazing network of people, and they've made it happen. And so I was like, all right, I need to study how this happens. And I did, and I've consulted on some other projects in my day job that were not successful, but that should have been. And I studied those too, and I was like, okay, now I know what makes a successful project. I know what's going on, and I need to tell people about it. So that's how I ended up writing the book, is like, I've got to let at least performing artists know that there's ways they can do this, that it will work. So, did that answer the question? What is crowdfunding?
Yes. Now, the other thing I want to add to that, right, is that you talked about people feeling bad about begging, okay? Mm-hmm. The biggest and most famous arts companies in the world have multiple people, full-time employees, whose entire job is to beg for money.
Yep.
Right? Every day, every Philharmonic, every theater company, they all do this, and there's nothing slimy about them doing it, so why would it be slimy for you doing it?
Exactly. There's nothing slimy about it. It's a matter of framing what you're doing in the right light, putting it in the right perspective, and then everything changes. It really does, and we'll get into that, because I have a whole spiel.
Now, the other thing that I think is really interesting about crowdfunding is that it's a really safe way to participate in the project, because if you don't reach the goal that's going to let you do the project, then they don't have to pay.
Yes. So that's actually a little bit of a misnomer. There's not always a guarantee. There's two types of funding that you can choose, and it depends on which platform you use, which type you end up with, or whether you get to choose. There's threshold funding, which is basically you set, a goal. So maybe you want $2,500 or you want $10,000, and if you don't reach that goal, nobody has to pay anything. So if you don't reach the threshold, you don't get any of the money, but none of your backers get charged either. So that way they can feel safe and knowing that they're not going to be, throwing money into a project that's not going to happen. So that's threshold funding. That's the first kind, pretty much, that started crowdfunding in general. And then they decided, well, you know what? What if we just charge a little bit more of the percentage fee, because all of the platforms will charge a small percentage fee. And so they said, well, what if we charge a little bit more and we let you keep what you get? So that's a different model of funding, and like Indiegogo and another one called Rocket Hub will use that. Will let you have that kind of options. Actually, it's funny that we're doing this call right now, because the whole crowdfunding space is in flux, but I can't talk about it. Like, all of the funding options are about to get updated and made really, really cool. But I was meeting with sort of an insider, and he's like, you can't tell anybody. I'm like, oh, but I really want to, but I can't. So just keep your eyes out. Right now there's two kinds of funding, but there will be other kinds coming. Some really cool advancements in this whole technology. So you get a choice. You can either have a threshold, and either you make the money or you don't, and the funders either get charged or they don't, or you get to keep what you get, and you'll pay like a 1% more to use that option. And the reason why is because they want you to, like for Indiegogo, they will use, they'll say you can keep what you get, and they're going to charge 4% instead of 3%, but the reason they're doing that is because they really want you to reach your goal. They want you to be all in. They want you to do all the marketing you need to do to reach your goal, and then if you do reach your goal, they're like, all right, cool, you did it. We'll go back to the 3%. So, the reason they're charging more is to really push you to make that goal, because we don't want you to kind of slack off because you're like, oh, well, whatever I get is good enough. They want you to be successful.
So it sounds like one scenario where you might use the no threshold version is, so let's say you're planning a DVD, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to cost $10,000 to get a production company to make it. And if I don't raise all of that money, then I know I'm just not going to be able to do it. So in that situation, you need a threshold, right? But if, I have a decent savings and I would just really like to get it financed, I'd rather not have to pay for it all myself up front. And it's still going to happen either way, but I just need help making it happen.
Exactly.
Then I might use
but as we all know, it doesn't take $10,000 to make a DVD, right?
Yes. So for those of you who don't know, I have made 2 instructional videos for a couple $100 each, and I'm working on my 3rd one right now, and I've taught other people how to do this. But that's a little bit of an aside. If you're interested in that, email me.
I was like, $10,000? Who pays that?
If you actually hire a production company with a full crew to do that, it will cost you on the order of $10,000. It's crazy.
Yes.
Anyway.
But Nadira is brilliant at doing it for way less than that. Anyway, we digress.
We do. So, we're talking about, funding a big project. What kinds of projects are we talking about here?
All right, so pretty much any kind of project with an end result can be funded. Well, first of all, anything can be funded. It just depends on which platform you use. The bigger platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, they want to have some kind of tangible thing that you're trying to accomplish, but they're really loosey-goosey about that. Like they approve all of they manually approve all of the campaigns that go up. So there's no guarantee that just because you put it up there it's going to get approved. Most of them do get approved, but sometimes they're going to go, you know what, this isn't really a project, it's more of general business expenses. And Orit, I know, had mentioned on one of your Facebook posts about this call that she was interested in doing things like running an infomercial, which would be an end result product. But she was also interested in hiring people to do her social media. Well, that would be more like a business expense, right? So you just have to go to the right platform for each of those things. So a project, you would want to go to like Indiegogo or Kickstarter or Rocket Hub. If you wanted to do more of a business-based one, you'd want to go to something like fundable.com or crowdfunder.com, because those are more about equity and investments, and they're like, people are backing businesses because they think your business is cool, and they're going to give you funds for that. So you just need to be aware of which type you're doing. But other than that, I mean, the sky's the limit. You can do shows, you can do books, you can do studio improvements, music, DVDs, product developments, costumes, photo shoots, really anything. And I'll give you some specific belly dance examples. Sarah Kent did archiving. She raised a crap ton of money. She blew through her stretch goals. She did all of this stuff because she had, I think she said 200 videotapes, the kind with actual tape, sitting on her living room table of dance footage from all over Egypt. It's part of her research, and I think it was for one of her degrees. Maybe she did research, but she was interviewing people and videotaping dances and all of this amazing, priceless information that was degrading on her kitchen table. And she said, I've got to get this in digital format before these tapes degrade completely. So she raised, God, I forget how much it was, but it was like $7,000 just to do half of them. And she blew through 3 or 4 levels of funding because why? Because dancers were like, oh my God, this is like priceless information. We can't lose this stuff. Yes, I want to help you preserve all of this information for dancers, and she was going to make it available on the web so that backers could actually have access to it. And the dancers went crazy. They were like, "Oh my God, yes, we have to do this." So that was one example. If you want to do a book about belly dancing, Terry Allred did a book called "I Belly Dance Because," and that was just a book of a bunch of different dancers telling their stories, which is really cool. It's a hardcover book. It's beautiful. She did a great job with it. That was all funded. I think it was through Kickstarter. Alia Thabit is in the middle of doing a book right now. She raised funds to produce her book, Has Belly Dance Lost Its Soul?, which is all about the cultural roots. And that started as a speech that she did in Toronto at a dance convention, and she's like, "Oh, this should be a book." So she raised funds for that. Amity Elise just got new floors for her brand new studio. She couldn't afford to, she had to move her studio. She's in a beautiful mill space, but it needs a lot of renovation, and she's willing to roll up her sleeves and paint and drywall and do all this stuff, but she had to get new floors. She raised the money on Kickstarter. It's amazing what you can do. There's just no end to it. What it comes down to is whether you have the network and whether you can find the value that people will contribute. So it's really all about finding the value in what you're doing and conveying that to people who might be willing to contribute. And not before I'm hearing something in my head going, "Oh yeah, but I don't have a big social media following. It would never work." People will contribute to campaigns with people they've never heard of if it's a really cool project, or even if it's just a project that is part of something that they hold dear, like belly dance. So you don't have to feel like your network is the only group of people you're going to reach out to. All of those people that I just mentioned had total strangers contribute, including myself, contributing to their project because it was like, "Oh my gosh, this is just too cool. This has to happen." So really the short answer is pretty much anything you can dream up, you can get funded. You just have to find the right ways to reach your people.
Exactly. Now, let's say some of the projects that you might make might be something that are going to make you a profit, like producing a product to sell. And some things may be nonprofit things, like there's, a big theatrical show that you've always wanted to put on and you're not expecting to make any money from it. How does your strategy differ? How can you make people feel good about donating to something that you're going to be making money on?
Honestly, you're an artist and people know you need to get paid. I mean, it doesn't seem to be an issue. I've studied so many different performing artists and different campaigns and successful ones and not successful ones, and some of their line items are, "We're going to pay the artists. I'm going to pay myself for the time it takes." And people who value the arts, they get that. Like, I get that you need to be paid for your time, and you absolutely should have the money to do that. If I want to support a movie or a video game being made, well, part of that is paying the crew that's creating it, right? If I want to make something that's like an invention come to life by supporting it, I'm supporting the creator. Those creators have to eat, they have to pay their rent. It just doesn't seem to be an issue, really. It still comes down to marketing, and it still comes down to the value that you're providing.
Now, we're talking about providing value. One thing that we haven't talked about much is that in most, but not all, crowdfunding campaigns, usually there are gifts that people get when they make a donation, kind of like the PBS tote bag, right? Sometimes, if it's a really low dollar value, sometimes it's something like a thank you on a web page, but, let's say you're making a DVD at a certain price point, you're going to get a copy of the DVD, and so on. But I've also seen some things where it's just, "Hey, please give me money." And, I even saw one where it was a business asking for donations to buy equipment, but not providing any gifts. And in that case, I didn't feel so great. About the idea of donating.
They didn't reach your value angle. They didn't reach what was important to you. Because if the right person with the right angle said, "Hey, I really need to buy some equipment," you would donate. It just depends on how you do it. But you're right. Most of the time you do give back perks. They're called perks on some place. It's so funny. Every platform has a different name for it. On Kickstarter, they're perks. On Indiegogo, they're rewards. On Rocket Hub, I think they're called goods. It's just little gifts, and they're little thank you gifts, right? And you can really kill your profit by doing the wrong gifts. A lot of people feel like they need to do T-shirts and tote bags and posters and physical CDs and all of these things, and they don't forget those things need to be produced and shipped. So shipping is a huge, huge thing that I interviewed a lot of successful campaigns, and almost every single one of them, I asked them, what advice would you give to people who are trying to do this? And they all said, oh my God, don't forget to calculate the shipping, because they just forgot about that. And my advice for that is just don't give away things that you have to ship. Don't give away physical things like T-shirt. I mean, it's nice to have a T-shirt of your show, but I'd rather have something maybe downloadable. So I made a list for you guys of all the cool things. So the way that rewards work is you go in tiers, right? So at the $5 level maybe, and you get to make up the levels, so I'm just making them up off the top of my head. But you'll have a $5 level, a $25 level, maybe a $50, maybe a $100, maybe a $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000. You want to have really, really low levels, and you want to have one really hunkin' huge high one that you don't think anybody in their right mind would ever donate to, but you never know. If it's not there, you never know when somebody crazy is going to be just going across and going, I want to give $25,000 to somebody, and it could be you. It happens. It really does. So you want to have it there so that they can do it, right? So the lower levels, you do easy things that don't cost any time or money to do. So so I've seen people do I will meditate for your good luck for 2 minutes, or I'll give you good vibes, or heartfelt prayers, or a sincere thank you, and that goes a long way. $5, a sincere thank you, awesome. I'm good with that, right? Then at the middle levels, anywhere from 20, 25 up to 100 or 200, you want things like downloadable products, so ebooks, videos, music, anything that doesn't cost to ship and doesn't cost to produce. You do it once, and it can be downloaded 1 million times. It's not anything that really is it's not a hardship for you, because not only does it take money to ship these things, it takes time. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot of time sometimes. I mean, people will be fulfilling their rewards for months after their campaign is done, and it kind of burns them out. So if it's something that's downloadable, it's so easy, right? The higher level you get, the more personal you want your rewards to be. So people like to pay for access to you. Even if you don't think you're a big star, they might think you're a big star, and they want to have things like personal critiques, maybe a Skype critique, a private lesson, a costume or makeup service. Any service that you can do. I've given talks on products and things on all of the workshops that you could possibly give. There's so many, right? Henna parties, all kinds of things you know how to do. Those can all be made into services that can become rewards. Just make sure that you limit the number of available perks there are at that level. So if you're going to do a personal critique, you don't want to be doing 700 of them, right? You don't know if this thing goes viral, you could have critiques coming out your ears, right? So make sure that you know how long it's going to take, and you budget accordingly, and you put it at a high enough tier that you can limit the number. Like at the $20 tier, you don't want to limit that. You want as many people to donate $20 as you possibly can. At the $100 tier or the $250 tier, maybe you're going to limit it to 10. Maybe you're going to limit it to 2. It just depends on your goals and what you're trying to fulfill. Some other things you can do is name mentions. People love to see their names, right? So you can put their name in the book, a thank you page. You can do names in your show program, just like they do every Broadway show. Every show everywhere has sponsors, and they all put their thank yous in the program, right? Because it's cool. On a website, if you have your website and you can prominently display somebody's name because they donated at a certain level, that's awesome. You can also, if you're making a new studio, people who build theaters put bricks with people's names in them. They put plaques on the wall. They embroider their name across the theater seats. There's all kinds of ways that you can use people's name as a reward. And it doesn't cost a whole lot of money. It might take some time to get it into action. That's something that's probably not a lot of belly dancers are going to be embroidering names on a lot of seats, but you never know. Then you can have really personal one-on-one interaction or one-on-many interactions, like throw a party. Throw a party online. Aliyah Thabit did parties all the way through her campaign. She had a party every time she reached a new threshold, and she just did a group Skype call. It was really cool. You can have VIP parties right before your show or right after your show. Do a cast party and let people get to meet the cast. If you're doing a really big show on a stage, maybe you invite people to come backstage and look at your sets or see how the sound system works or see how the lighting works. I don't know. I mean, you have to be creative with this, right? I've seen people make dinner for people, like that's their perk. They're a big famous band, or they want to be a big famous band, and they're like, oh, we'll come to your house and make dinner, or we'll make dinner at our house and bring it over to you or something. This is just, there's so many cool things you can do. The best thing you can do is go look on Kickstarter and just look at the perks, because your brain will explode with ideas, really, really fun ideas. I've even seen one woman who was like, I will marry you. No, really, I'm a licensed person to do wedding ceremonies. I will marry you and your significant other. And I mean, people loved that. It was great,
All right, so we've been talking about the reward structure, but let's take a little step back and let's take a look at what it takes to put together a campaign.
Okay.
So first off, what are some of the different sites or services out there?
So there's a lot of different. There's actually like hundreds of them, because it's so popular now. People are seeing it as a way to make money if they can provide a platform for other people to do campaigns on. So your best bet really is to stick with the big ones, because you're going to get those people who troll through. You're going to get all that random traffic that you normally wouldn't get on a smaller platform. There are platforms that are dance-related specifically. There's platforms that are, related to certain countries. There's one in, I can't remember the name of it right now. I think it's crowdfunder.co.uk. That's for the United Kingdom. And really, it's best just to stick with the big ones, because the traffic there is so big. The three big are Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and Rocket Hub. And then the alternative to that is just to do your own campaign. And you can do that if you're tech savvy, or you have a tech savvy teenager or husband or something. You can put up your own site and just do it. Like, I had some very good friends who are musicians who, they looked into Kickstarter and they're like, why? I don't want to give away all my money to them. 2%, even if it's only 2%, it's still money. They're like, we're just going to do it on our website. And they did it, and they were successful. It was great, You're not going to have as big of a reach. You're not going to have the extra traffic. But they knew, because they were in such a tight niche, okay? They do something called Wizard Rock, which is Harry Potter songs, like songs about Harry Potter, and they do concerts.
Awesome.
It's a whole thing.
I would fund that project.
It's a whole thing, and so they were invited to go to London to go to this LeakyCon, which is a Harry Potter convention, because they have those, and perform, but they needed the money for the plane tickets, and they knew that their niche was so small, it was really only going to go out to people who knew them, and it did. And people who knew them were like, hell yeah, you need to go to London, and they all, they pitched in, and they got their plane tickets, and they went to London. So you can do it yourself. There's actually WordPress plugins now, or WordPress themes, that will let you do it really easily. They'll set up the whole website just like a Kickstarter page. Franklin is one, Mission is one, and there's one that's designed for performing artists. It's called Gig. They cost like $50 or $60, but if you know that you're going to do it once, if you know you're going to do it more than once, it might be worthwhile investing in that. It really depends on how much marketing you're going to do and whether you need that extra traffic or not.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was another part of that question. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, no, that's where we started. So, once you've decided what platform and how you're going to run it, how do you go about structuring your campaign? What needs to go on that site?
There, that's where we were. All right. So, basically, the first thing you need to do is set up your budget. You need to figure out, how much money do you need to do the project. Then you need to add on the platform fees. Almost all of them use Amazon Payments. Amazon Payments charges another fee. They're like 2-point-something%. So you need to add that in. You want to add in like a 10% buffer plus taxes. And Lorelei, bless her heart, actually emailed me with this question about taxes. And I want to make sure that I answered that as well, because I actually had to do research. I was like, oh, man, I hadn't even thought about that. I need to put that in the book. So thank you, Lorelei, if you're listening to this. I appreciate you sending in that question. You got to figure in the taxes, too, because Amazon Payment and all of the platforms are really fuzzy on this. Like, they don't want to get into giving tax advice, so they don't really mention it a whole lot. But if you look in the fine print, it's like, oh, yeah, you do have to pay taxes. It's income. You do have to pay taxes on it, and you're not going to get a form from Amazon Payments unless you make more than $20,000. if you make more than $20,000, they'll send you a tax form. They'll do all the reporting, and it'll be like a regular 1099 from any other company. But most people don't raise that much. They raise a little bit less than that, or a lot less than that. So you need to budget in that in your overall goal. I think the experts recommend about 10% of your goal for taxes too. So if you go and Google, crowdfunding budget forms, there's like whole spreadsheets, and I am not a spreadsheet person, but you can Google that, and there's free ones all over the web you can find. So then you need to do your actual web page, right? The whole thing lives on a web page, and the biggest parts of those are your video, your pitch, and your updates and your marketing plan. So you basically want to do a video. It can be with your cell phone. It doesn't have to be a professionally produced video. It's nice if it's looks good, but it doesn't have to be perfect. You want to tell your story, tell your journey. What are you trying to create? What's the value of what you're creating? Who are you trying to reach? Why is it important? Okay, go watch the videos in Kickstarter or any of the platforms that we've mentioned, and go to the successful. If you're doing research, always look at the ones that were successful. Don't look at the ones that weren't. So they actually have a category that says successfully funded campaigns, and you just click on that, and then look, and you can search under dance, and then you can just look at all sorts of ones that were successful, and they'll give you lots of ideas for what to say in your video. The video is mandatory. You've got to have it, because that may be the only thing people look at. It needs to be short, 1 to 3 minutes. So you don't have a lot of time to tell your story. So that's why it takes a little bit of planning. And I know that the people that I had mentioned earlier who were dancers who were doing this, they spent months preparing these campaigns. Like, they really put a lot of thought into it, and that's why they were successful. So your pitch is just all the writing on the page and the pictures. And the biggest advice I can give with that is know your target markets and know your value angles that reach those target markets. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you want to put on a show, okay, and you're gonna have a cast and a crew, and you've got people doing backstage stuff and lighting, and you want to hire a lighting designer, and you want some funding for the show, right? So how many target markets do you have that you can reach out to for funding? Most people will say, I just have my social network. Okay, but that's not true. You have you and all of the people who know you. Your mom will donate probably, right? Your husband might donate. Maybe your husband's boss will donate. So people who are connected to you will donate. People who are connected to every other person involved in that show will donate. Some of them anyway, right? So your lighting designer, your sound tech, your stage manager, all of the dancers, any other studios involved, all of those people have their own networks too. Okay, that's another target audience. Then you can go to like the theater. So you're starting with you and you're working your way out. So then you've got the theater, the venue. Does the venue have an interest in this show? Is there a reason for them to maybe promote your Kickstarter campaign? Then you go outside of the theater into the town. Is there something about your show that is important to that town? Is it going to bring business into the downtown area? Are you creating an event that's really, really cool, culturally cool or culturally relevant to a particular group in that town? Because those people, if there's a Middle Eastern culture in your town, they might donate. They might donate a lot, right? So you just keep working outwards. What's outside of your town? Maybe your county or your state, right? Or maybe your country. If you're in a small country, and there's a relevant reason that people should support your campaign that has to do with geography, those are more target audiences. Then you have your genre, so your dance, right? Belly dance, tribal belly dance, fusion belly dance. I mean, there's all kinds of different genres. Women's empowerment groups, right? Like, you never know. They might donate. Maybe you have somebody in the show who's pregnant, and they're doing a birthing piece or something, and you want to reach out to all the OBGYNs in the area. There's so many ways that you can reach completely random people that normally you have no connection with, but you have to find the ties. What ties these special interest groups and these special people to you and your show, or your book, or your DVD, or your studio, whatever it is? How many people can you find? How many audiences? And that's when you start getting really, really big. And you get a bigger pool of people, it's easier to reach your goals. Does that make sense?
Yes. So how do you spread the word to all those different
I was just going to say, then you need a marketing plan. You read my brain, Nadira.
I have practice.
So the marketing plan really comes down to how are you going to spread the word. All marketing is spreading the word about what you're doing, okay? And you have to have first of all, you have to have a campaign that you're really proud of. You have to have a well-thought-out concept for your project. You really have to have put some effort into it, because if you look sloppy on the page, people aren't going to donate, and then all of your marketing efforts are wasted. And if you don't feel proud of it and you're not excited to share it, you're not going to do as good a job. Okay, so that's really important, is have a really great campaign, and you're proud of it, you're happy, you get people to kind of critique it and look at it. Then you just need to start spreading the word. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get some what we call first followers, where nobody likes to take a risk. Nobody likes to be the first one to do anything. So you want to call your mom and say, hey, can you just go donate $5 or something to this campaign? Or you call your friends, or you tell your studio, your troop mates or something, so that you get like 5 or 6 people who've already donated before you start spreading the word. Because people need to see that someone else has already invested in this, and then they'll be like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll invest in it. But if there's a big fat zero there, nobody wants to be first. So make sure you get some ringers in there, and these are people who would probably donate anyway, eventually. Just ask them first, that's all. And then you start spreading the word on social media. Social media is the biggest, easiest way to do it. You put it out on your personal Facebook page, you tweet it out, you put it on Google+. You can even put things on LinkedIn. If you have a blog or a podcast, you can talk about things that are relevant to the show or relevant to whatever your project is, and then say, oh, by the way, if you want to contribute, here's the link to the campaign. Like, give them something interesting. Don't just constantly be saying, hey, donate, donate, donate. Give them something back, right? Beyond social media, you can do press releases. Remember what I said about geographic target audiences. If there's something, especially if it is November right now, or almost November, and campaign season for politics is in full swing, right? So we've got local senators and the governor is going crazy, and if there's something that you can find, some tie that you can find to something in politics, or if maybe the mayor is doing a big downtown renovation, like they really want businesses to come to downtown, and you're part of that effort, and you're starting a studio downtown, and you really want to make a big splash in the community, you can write a press release and get the mayor to maybe make a little statement in that press release, and they will run it in the papers because it's important, right? It's news. So getting on the radio in your community, getting on podcasts, getting into blogs in your local community, or outside your local community into belly dance blogs, whatever you can do to reach eyes and ears is what's going to bring them back to your page.
And I want to jump in and say that those blogs and podcasts do not have to be your own.
That's right.
People who run shows like this one really like having guests with interesting things to say.
Exactly. So let me just use your show as an example, right? So let's say I had a Kickstarter coming out for a book, or maybe Sarah would have been a great one for her archive project. And you say, hey, Nadira, I'm launching this campaign in a couple months. Can I come on your show and just talk about this cool cultural phenomenon or something? And if there's room in your schedule and you have something relevant to say to belly dancers, Nadira's going to say yes. I don't know any reason.
Promote your stuff all you want if you have something geeky that my people would be interested in hearing.
Exactly.
Email me.
It's got to be relevant, but contact her. So there's podcasts. There's a brand new podcast out, Shut Up and Shimmy, that one of our Belly Dance Business Academy members has started that one. There's a couple others. There's not a whole lot of podcasts out there, but this one is. Belly Dance Geek is just freaking awesome. So, come here. There's blogs. There's magazines. The problem with the magazines is the lead time. So if you are like 6 months out from a launch, you might be able to get into a print magazine, but they plan their issues pretty far ahead. So doing something specifically for the reason of promoting your Kickstarter, that might not work so well, but blogs are everywhere. Belly dance blogs. Contact Princess Farhana and say, hey, what do you think about talking about, Egyptian culture and makeup? And do you mind if I do a guest blog? Guest blogging is what it's called, where you come in and you say, hey, I'd love to write an article for you. And most bloggers will they're so busy, but they always have to put out fresh content. So if you are a good writer and you have something relevant to say to their audience, and you say, "Hey, can I just write a blog post for you because I think I have something good to say to your readers, and it will make your work, make your life easier." Most of them will say, "Yeah." Most of them will be happy to. You do have to, have something good to say, and you do have to write well, but most dancers I know are pretty good at that, so it doesn't seem to be a problem. So, yeah, your marketing is really just get it out there. Get it out there. Get it out there. If you have a website, put it on your front page. Put a big old button that says, "Hey, donate to our Kickstarter campaign. Here's what it's about." Create content around what you're doing and put it out there. It's just some of the best things you can do. And content can be just a picture with some words on it. It doesn't have to be a blog post. You don't have to write. You could be a YouTube video. It could be a choreography. It could be almost anything. That's something that you put out there that people can consume and learn more from. I am going to talk all night long at this rate.
Well, you can.
You know how I get.
Yeah. So, how can you set yourself up for success when you're doing this? What are the most important things to make sure that you cover?
Okay, real quick. Budget carefully. Remember your taxes and your shipping and your physical perks. Anything that you've got to do, really do yourself a favor and go online and just Google crowdfunding spreadsheet or crowdfunding budget sheet and look, because they'll have everything in there and you won't forget anything. So that's number one. You want to make sure you don't lose the money that you raise. Number two is find as many target audiences as you can, and I just went through a whole bunch of them. As many audiences, and then find as many ties. I call them value angles, but it's as many ties to those people as you possibly can. How is it relevant? How could you possibly connect your project to the mayor of your city or, whoever else you're trying to reach? Because all of those people have networks as well, and you have no idea what kind of big fish are in those networks. Some of them just love sharing Kickstarter. That's all they do. I know people who do nothing else, but they spend hours a day just surfing through Kickstarter, looking for cool projects and really awesome people to support. And you never know when you're going to hit one of those. So let me see if I had anything else on that one. Really, be proud of what you're doing. That's the biggest thing. If you're going to be successful, you need to be proud of what you're doing so that you can get out there and really spread the word. And if, for some reason, you're not successful, so what? It doesn't mean that you're a terrible person. It doesn't mean that you suck. It doesn't mean that you're not a good dancer. It just means that your project didn't hit the right people, or maybe you just didn't do enough marketing or whatever. You can try again. If you're not successful, you can always try again. There are no limits to the number of times you can be running one project on Kickstarter, right? So be proud of what you're doing. Oh, and one more thing is do updates. They let you change your video. They let you do updates. They let you email all of the people who have already contributed, and those are the people who are going to spread the word. You have to ask them to spread the word. Say, "Hey, would you mind sharing this on Facebook? Would you mind sharing this on Twitter? We're really close. I really want to get this up there." But when you don't take advantage of those updates, people they'll donate and then they'll forget about it. And you don't want that to happen, because if you really do a good job of engaging them and getting them excited about the project, they could be customers of yours for the rest of their lives. You have no idea how long they could be supporters of your business. They might come to every single show you do after this. They might decide, that they want to send their daughters to your classes. They might decide to have you come perform at their wedding or their granddaughter's wedding. You just don't know. You're reaching people, and you need to engage with those people and really count them as supporters for life. And if you think of them that way, then they very well will be.
One thing that I update-wise was I donated to a documentary project, and every 2 or 3 months they would send us a little clip of the latest footage that they'd had. So we got to see, another minute or two of something that might be in the movie. And so every single time I saw it, I shared it.
Yes. And you're like, "Oh, look at this. It's going to be so cool," right? And it keeps the excitement up. Because sometimes those projects take a long time to happen. It can take years for some of these projects to happen, and that is a long time for someone to wait. So you really want to keep them excited with these updates. And your Kickstarter page or your crowdfunding page, the web page, is not going to go down. So even if it takes 2 years, you can keep sending updates through those things 2 years later. It'll still work.
And another thing that I want to mention that I found as I was doing my research for this call was that, somebody mentioned that people sometimes create the Kickstarter and then send out a big blast and then just hope that people are spreading the word. And this person, I wish I could give them credit because I can't remember who they are now, was saying you really do have to keep actively marketing throughout the whole campaign, because you're going to get a burst at the beginning and you're going to get a burst at the end. But in between is the time when all of that sharing is happening.
Right. There's always what they call it a dip. So there's a dip, and it's a dip in traffic to the website, it's a dip in donations, and it's a dip in your emotional energy, because if you've put a lot of effort into this, it's exhausting. And, you're spending 30 days or so, and that's something we didn't talk about, but the timeline is important. You want about 30 to 40 days. You don't want anything too long for your campaign to run, and you don't want anything too short. So the sweet spot's about 30 days. So you're going to be marketing an hour a day at least for 30 days. And you don't want to be repeating yourself too much, and you want to be, being creative about the ways that you're getting it out there. But yeah, it can be exhausting, and that dip is killer. You really have to pick yourself up and re-energize all of those people. And the best way to do that is with these updates and getting people excited. Share something from the show. If you're writing a play, or you're writing maybe you're writing a script for a dance show that you want to do. I know not many people do that. So maybe you're doing choreography for a whole show, and show one of the pieces, or show some of the costumes you've made for it, or get people excited. Say, hey, look, let's look at this amazing theater. This is where we're going to do it. This is the stage, and this is we're so excited because you guys have funded us so far. We were going to be able to, hire a professional lighting designer so that our video is going to look great. All of these things. So keep people excited and engaged. And if you can figure a way to get them on your mailing list, I'm always pitching this. If you can get people from the Kickstarter page to your mailing list by saying, hey, if you want to come subscribe to my YouTube channel, or maybe you want to find out what else we're doing, or maybe you want to come to a free class or something, get them on your mailing list, then they are your customers forever, not just for the length of this particular project.
Good advice. All right. Well, we covered an awful lot. Is there anything that I didn't ask you about that you wish I did?
Oh, man. I don't think so. I think we covered a lot of stuff here. There's going to be a lot more in the book, but this is the basics. I hope that everybody can take away what they need from it, and if you have people with questions, you can certainly do that.
Mm-hmm. We're going to take questions from our listeners in just a sec, but before we do that, if people take one thing away from this call, what should that be?
That should be that you can do this, okay? You are worthy of funding whatever project you want, and that is the most important thing, is belief in yourself, and I am a staunch believer in you, whoever you are. You can do whatever you want to do. And it is simply a matter of figuring out your target audiences, how your project is of value, and really doing some serious work on the concept for your project and on your marketing, and it will happen. You have to believe that. A lot of people will say, oh, who am I to do that? I really can't. I'm not a big star. I can't do that. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. If you want to do it, you can do it. And if you need somebody to support you and to say, I believe in you, then I'm your girl.
Well, if people do want to get that kind of support from you, how can they do that?
You can do that at bellydancebusinessacademy.com is where I have blog posts and articles, and I have a couple of little products that you can purchase if you are interested in going into some deeper dives. And if you want personal support, you want to talk to me on a regular basis, once a month, we have open calls, and that's in the Circle, which is really just a group of amazing women who are kicking butt with their businesses and just learning all kinds of really juicy marketing things. That's kind of our marketing geek clubhouse for belly dancers is the Circle. So you can find all that information at bellydancebusinessacademy.com.
And I am in the Circle. I've been there for quite a while, and then I also worked with Julie one-on-one before that. And if you need somebody to kick your butt, she's the one. If you need somebody to tell you what is worth doing and what probably isn't, she's the one. And she's also really funny if you haven't gotten this. So when she's telling you what to do and kicking your butt, it's still going to be fun. And if people want to stay up to date on your book and get it when it's available, how can they do that?
Right. So here's the deal with the book. It's like a side project for me, and I swore I was going to have it finished and ready for this call because we scheduled it like in August, and it just didn't happen. So I'm working as fast as I can. I want to get it out by the end of the year. If you want to be on the advanced notice for when that comes out, and you never know, I might give away some free little cool fun things there if you get on that list. Just go put your name and email in. The website is crowdfundingfortheperformingarts.com, and it's just one page right now. It's just a picture of the book and an email collector to get notified when that book is ready.
And I'll post both of those links on the episode page. So if you're worried about how to spell it, don't worry. You can
Don't worry.
All right, so we're going to move into the question and answer portion of the call. Now, in the last couple months, we've switched to a new service. So the way that questions and answers are going to work is that you have two options. If you're only listening on the webcast, or if you prefer to type, you can click on the little speech bubble on the right-hand side of your screen, and that will expand the chat feature. So you can type in your question there. If you want to talk live, then you can press ** to unmute yourself. So if you're on the phone, that's on your phone. And if you're on Skype, that would be on the Skype keypad, not necessarily on your keyboard. And the thing about this thing is that it unmutes you immediately. So if everybody's asking at once, I might have to manually mute one of you, but that's okay. So if you have a question, go ahead and press ** and tell us your name. That's our waiting music. Okay, I don't have any questions yet. Now, Julie, I know a couple people had sent you questions in advance. Did you cover them already, or were there any?
I kind of wove them in. Yeah, Lorelei sent a question about taxes, and I know that Reed had mentioned on there about. I just wanted to make sure that she understood that there's a difference between having a project base and having just general business expenses. So I think I sort of wove those questions in. That's the thing, guys. When I say, email me with questions, totally email me with questions. I'll answer them.
And would you tell them your email?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's julie@bellydancebusinessacademy.com.
Okay. Well, I don't see any questions coming in just yet, so why don't we move this into feedback? So what was your favorite thing that you learned, or the most interesting tidbit you took away? You can press ** to unmute yourself, or type in your question in the chat box, and I'll read it for you.
Hi. I forgot how to use my phone. Hi, this is Nisha. I had a question. I was wondering, have you noticed any sort of a pattern in the sorts of things that aren't successful? You know, things like didn't have good perks, or a certain type of breakdown, or obviously haven't done the research or planned things out. But is there anything concrete, any sort of patterns that you've noticed about?
It's all over the map. It's because somebody who has a relatively poor marketing campaign might hit somebody really big with something interesting and get a big donation. Somebody who's done a really great job with their video or their regular, the actual web page itself, the campaign itself, and has done a great job with the updates and everything, they may have a really small outreach and haven't found a way to really tap into those audiences. Most of the advice that's out there about doing this kind of work is based around the physical things you have to do on the different technologies, so like how to put a video up and what you should have in your video and how to make a budget and those kinds of things. And I'm more about find your target audiences, as many as you can. Find the ties that bind them to you, and you will be successful. I really believe that. And you have to articulate that, and you have to reach all of them. So you have to reach mom, and you have to reach your students, and you have to reach their moms, and you have to reach the mayor. As many different targets as you can. When you do that, and when you have a really great project that you're passionate about, and you reach into a passionate community, and let me tell you something, belly dancers are just about the most passionate community I have ever seen, because they will support a lot of things. They will cut you down sometimes too. There's a lot of cattiness, but you can really, the love of this dance form is amazing, and because we're such a tight niche, people will support you that you have no idea. Like, how in the world did I ever reach this goal? But it's because you're reaching into a really amazing community full of awesome people. And it really helps that, something as small as $5 can really make a difference. You get 10,000 people donating $5. That's a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
So I haven't seen anything that doesn't work. It's really all over the map. I think that if you do a bad job with your concept, like knowing exactly what you want to produce and why it's valuable, that will put you down some. And if you don't do your marketing, that's going to put you down. Other than that, really anything can get funded, and it really comes down to you doing the work. And it does take time ahead of time. Don't plan like, okay, I want to do a show next month, and I'm just going to run a Kickstarter this month. It doesn't work that way. You need to put in a good amount of time. I know that some of these people that I consulted with, they spent 6 months, and they teased it out. They're like, okay, we got a big announcement coming, and they like let out little secrets. This is for Sarah Kent's one on Journey Through Egypt with the Archive project. They worked so long and hard on that campaign, and it showed, because they reached their first goal in less than 24 hours, and then they blew through all their other goals. It was amazing. And if you want to go study that, look at Journey on Kickstarter. You can study how it happened, like study what they did. You can always go back and look at these projects. So you can go to Journey Through Egypt or Journey to Egypt. I can't remember which one it is. Up on Kickstarter, and you'll find it. You can probably just search Journey in Egypt and find it.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, and thank you for the great question. I'm going to put you back on mute. All right, and we've got a question that was typed in from Kat, who asks, what do you recommend for promotional videos for campaigns?
What do you mean as far as the content?
That's what I'm guessing. Kat, if you'd like to clarify, you can type in a clarification, or you can press ** to unmute yourself. Kat says yes, the content.
Okay, so for the content for your video, you've only got 1 minute to 3 minutes, really, to get people interested. The biggest thing, this is the first thing they're going to do, is play your video, right? So you want to be in your video. You want to be front and center, show them who you are, and really be sincere and personable. Sometimes people will do voiceovers. I think Amity did a voiceover because she wanted people to see the condition of the floors. She was doing the floors for her studio, and so she just did a voiceover. But what you want to do is you want to say who you are. You want to say why are you involved in this dance form? What does the dance mean to you? But not too long. Just give us a little story of your journey, and then talk about the project. Talk about what you want to happen and why it's important. And if you can weave in those value angles, if you can weave in those ties to different things, like this is a project, this is a show that's going to really bring back nostalgia to the Middle Eastern community in our area, and it's going to revitalize downtown, and it's going to help the restaurants downtown, because we're going to have this big event that's going on, and it's going to have we're going to cater through this restaurant or something. I don't know what it is. I'm making it up off the top of my head, but you really want to just reach as many people as you can in the video without going overboard. Like you don't need to talk to Mom in the video, because Mom you can just call her on the phone, right? So try to help people understand why this video should be important to them. Try to reach their hearts. If you can reach their hearts, you've got them. At some level, they may not be able to donate a lot, but a lot of times, I know for me, when they reach my heart, I will give as much as I can, and sometimes more than I should, because it's just so cool. It just feels so good to give some money to somebody that you know is going to do good things with it.
And if I can add on to that, show us your passion.
Yes, be passionate. Be who you are. Show us your show. Show us, if it's a show that you're trying to do, maybe show a little bit of one of the other shows that you've done. If you're an artist, show your art, right? It just makes sense. Don't show us your 20-minute restaurant gig, because we don't want to see that. Maybe you show us a 4-second clip of it. But, just make people excited as you are about what you're doing.
That was a great question, Kat. If you've got any follow-up, you can go ahead and type that in. And for everybody else, if you would like to ask a question, you can press ** to unmute yourself.
Let me just say one other thing about the videos.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people get freaked out about videos because it's like, oh God, it's on film or whatever, but it's not on film. It's like on your camera. You can always erase it if you don't like it. So do it a bunch of times, mess up, make mistakes, keep a blooper reel if you want to, but just do it. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get in front of a camera, and eventually you'll come up with something that you really do like and that will really work really well. You can also, remember, you can always edit things together. So if you have a really great description of your story and then another take, 2 hours later you had a really great description of the project, you can edit them together. So don't feel like everything has to be perfect the first take. It doesn't have to be.
And if your bloopers are funny, you can share them as a project
That's
later.
That's your updates. Look, this was hilarious.
Okay. Well, it looks like we may have come to the end of our questions. Let me just scroll down again and make sure we don't have anything else waiting for us. Okay, and I think that is it. Well, thank you so much, Julie.
You are so very welcome. And I would love to hear, if you put some out there, send me a link so I can put it up.
And me too. And, of course, Julie and I will both be happy to share your links when you need your network to share them for you.
Exactly, because we're part of your network now.
Exactly. And I'd also like to thank our sponsor, Blue Moonstone Designs. So if you're interested in some lovely veils, tassel belts, or cover-ups, you can check them out at bluemoonstone.etsy.com. And thank you, everybody, for coming. This is the end of our call, but that doesn't mean that the conversation has to end. We've got a private Facebook group just for Clubhouse folks, and I'll send out an email shortly with an invitation to that. As always, there is a bit of a delay between when you request to join and when I approve you, so if you can't post right away, don't worry. And in my email, I will also include a link to this call recording. So if there were any little tidbits that you want to follow up on and you didn't take notes, it's going to be okay. And I'll also include a link to Julie's site so that you can keep up on the project and also get some support right away. And I'll also be including a link to our feedback survey. So I run the Clubhouse, but it's for all of us. So if you have any particular topics that you'd like to hear us cover, any speakers that you'd like to hear, or if there's any other way that I can improve the Clubhouse for you, I would love to hear about it. Our next call is still to be announced, and I was talking to Julie about it right before the call, and I think it's going to be a good one, but I can't share it with you just yet. So keep your eyes open. And the very last thing that I want to say is that this is the come-on-in kind of Clubhouse, not the no boys allowed kind. So if you know somebody who would enjoy these calls, you can invite them to join us at bellydancegeek.com/clubhouse. And until next time, happy dancing. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening. For more geek-tacular resources, visit bellydancegeek.com.